Welcome back. So, my first job ever in life was selling fireworks. I worked at one of those, it's like 15 stands lined up with each other. And, each one has a different thing. So, you would start in this stand and then you'd pick out some black cats, put it in a bag, and then the customer and you would move to the next stand and then you'd get some smoke bombs and move to the next stand, add some artillery shells, all that. I made about 260, 270 bucks. Oddly enough, it wasn't that much money, but the guy paid me in ones. So to me, it was like a ton of money. But that was my entryway into selling, well, into working, but into selling. I would then, in my professional career, really get into selling, primarily in beverage sales. So, hence, ventures in beer selling. I sold beer on the supplier level, on the distributor level. But I've also sold tech sales, um, ad sales, logistics, storage. I've sold machines. I've sold shirts, just about everything, anything and everything you can think of. And what I wanted to do today was identify 10 characteristics, 10 tactics of great salespeople. Now, this is primarily focused on the beverage industry: wine, beer, spirits, non alc. However, as I listed all the other things that I used to sell, most of this stuff can apply to anything, any sales profession, any sales organization, any sales rep. These are all great things that you should be doing when you're out in the field, when you're meeting with customers, and when you're selling. So take a look, check it out. I told you guys I have an unhealthy obsession with top 10 lists. So let me know what you think. Please enjoy. Shout out to Simon Whistler, the king of top 10 lists. I hope that what I put together is as good as anything that you could put together without a British accent. You guys enjoy. Okay, I'm excited. Let's get started with the top 10 tactics of great beverage sales reps with number 10. Be proactively reactive. Now, I know this sounds crazy, but let's travel back in time to when I worked for a distributor. And one of the things that was said so often that would drive me completely insane, it became like a credo. It became like a saying with everyone at the distributor, all the management. We got to be more proactive. We got to stop being reactive. We got to be proactive. We got to be proactive. And I would be saying in my head, I'd be screaming in my head, everything we do is reactive. Everything that happens is reactive. And early on in my career, I was very frustrated by this because, you could be building on a million case display and you get that phone call that says, drop everything that you're doing. This is what we're doing. You could be selling in this new product. This is the new product we're selling. We're focused on this. This is the only thing we're going to focus on. Forget everything else. And then you get out into the field with 20 cases of that product and they say, bring those cases back. Come grab this other new thing. This is the new thing we're focusing on. A wise supervisor told me one time, sometimes it's like they have a dartboard with all these ideas and products and brands and focuses, and they're just spinning it and they're just throwing darts, and wherever it lands, that's what you're doing. So what that taught me was that, yes, you should be proactive, but you should more importantly be proactively reactive, which means be flexible. You have to be prepared to make adjustments. Things change on a whim, and the best salespeople are chameleons. The best salespeople blend in with whatever the situation requires. Another great example, I had an off-premise account, a grocery store, very difficult manager that I used to deal with. And I was about to have a walkthrough. I was about to have some top dogs come through a couple of my stores, and he was my key store. He was my biggest selling store at the time. And I knew he was probably going to say no to putting a big major display in the very front of the store. So I went in there and of course I asked for it. I'm like, look, I have these top brass coming in. I need you to come in. I need you to come through for me and let me put in this display. And he said no. However, I was ready to make adjustments. So what I convinced him to do was we walked the store and I showed him every spot I could put a very small display in. So, no, Top Brass didn't see the big 200 case display in the front of the store, but what they did see was they saw multiple products, multiple brands represented throughout the walk of the store. So, everywhere you turn, there's a display. And we covered more brands and more space. So, win for me, win for him, win for the Top Brass. Flexibility is so important. You have to be prepared for it. You cannot be uncomfortable with it. Number 9, know the lay of the land. So back in the day, there was this really awesome show on HBO called The Wire. The Wire gives you all of the different functions and kind of underpinnings of Baltimore, Maryland. So from the police to the media to the politics to the docks to the drug dealers, it's all about what's going on in Baltimore. And one of my favorite scenes from The Wire to kind of display what know the lay of the land means is this scene. It's about the drug dealers, and this is Chris Partlow is the enforcer for one of the main drug kingpins, Marlowe. And he, his Lieutenant Snoop, and his protege, Michael, are doing a stakeout on one of these guys that disrespected Marlowe in some fashion or said something Marlowe wants him gone. So they're doing this stakeout, and Chris Partlow asks Michael, they're probably there like an hour or 2 hours before they're going to assassinate him, to assassinate the other guy. And he asks Michael, do you know why we're here? Like, we're here so early. And Michael says, well, we're trying to see the scene. We're trying to see what's going on the block, who's coming in and out of the house, where all the people are. And Chris Partlow says, exactly. He says, I always come to a job an hour, maybe 2 hours early, so I can get an idea of what's going on. You don't want somebody setting up on you when you're setting up on them. And Snoop says one of my favorite lines. She says, in this line of business, you can't afford any surprises. So this is really a great metaphor for selling anything. You want to know the lay of the land. You want to understand the environment that you're working in. The story I told earlier about selling to that off-premise account and selling the multiple displays. One of the reasons I was able to do that. So back in the day with the distributors, before we had all these really handy laptops and tablets and stuff like that, we used to write down our orders on these papers, these route cards. We'd write down the what was in the inventory and then write another number down for what we wanted to sell. One of the things that helped us do that was walking the store. So as soon as you walked into the store, you would get the sales paper. You would see which of your products are on sale for that week. You would also see what other products are on sale, and you also see what other items were on sale. So let's say you have ribs are for sale. So then you walk the store. So the meat section, so ribs are for sale. So you're looking for a place where you could possibly put extra cases of beer near the ribs because there's going to be a high traffic area. You walk the entire store. So one of the things that helped me when I was selling that off-premise account was that I wanted to do the big thematic. I had a feeling he was going to say no, but because I knew the environment of that store, I knew that there were multiple places to put small incremental displays. So I really knew that store. And this works for everything. This works for on-premise accounts. If you walk into an account, go in and look at what's on the tap wall. Look at what's going on in the account. If he has 6 IPAs on tap, he might not want another IPA. This works the same thing for all kinds of sales, for tech sales. I'm always on LinkedIn. I'm always searching the companies that I reach out to or that I've reached out to in the past. I'm always looking to see who the decision makers. I'm always getting an idea of what they're posting and kind of the layout of the way they do things. I'm always researching. Know the lay of the land, walk the floor, get to know who you're selling to and what are their focuses and goals. You don't want somebody setting up on you while you're setting up on them. And number 9 is super important. So make sure you know the lay of the land. Number 8, make a name for yourself that sticks. We all know what this is. This is simple. This is easy. This is about your reputation. This is about your name being solid, your name meaning something to customers, colleagues, and competitors. This is about your word being golden. When you say something, it's going to happen. If you promise something, it will be delivered. This is how people envision you. My grandmother was around 4'10", 4'11" in height. She was a very tiny woman. We used to jump over her when she wasn't looking. It was hilarious. She was one of those very chubby grandmas, huggable grandmas. Very sweet. Very, never really raised her voice. And even with all that said, there was no reason to fear my grandmother. Except if she said to do something, all 20-some of her grandkids, we all did it. Even the ones that were muscular and big, everybody did it. Why? Because her word was golden. It wasn't out of fear. It was that we knew the consequences would be delivered. We knew that if there was a switch nearby, we were going to go break it off if we didn't do what she was asking us to do. On the flip side to that, if she promised you something, exact same scenario, it was always delivered. If you needed money and she said she could get it, she would get it. When I was a little kid, I used to have these crazy requests. My grandmother would be like, well, what do you want for breakfast? And I'd be like, well, I want pancakes and I want grits and I want cinnamon roll and I want cereal and then I want eggs, but I want bacon and I want sausage and I want breakfast potatoes and I want hash browns. And my mom would be like, no. My grandma would be like, are you going to eat it? If I make all of those things, are you going to eat it? Yes, ma'am, I'm going to eat it. And she would deliver all of that. Every single thing on my list, she would deliver it. And if she wasn't going to deliver on it, she would never promise it. So make sure your word is golden like my grandmother. Make sure that you are the vision of your victories. So what that means is that when people see you, it's positive. It's always positive. So I had a customer, big off-premise account, chain grocery. It was my number one off-premise, but it was not the number one off-premise account for my distributor. But they did really great numbers. And he was the store manager was so pissed because he didn't get the same kind of love and attention that the number one store got. Also didn't get the same attention that maybe somebody that was a little bit less than him. A lot of it had to do with his location. The powers that be didn't deem it that location to go to. I guess, I don't know. So he used to complain. He used to complain about us as a distributor. Nobody would come by my store. My store looks this, we do this. And so what I did was I made a connection with a higher up with our biggest supplier. And I said, hey, it would be great if you'd come by this store and, show this guy some love, this, that, and the third. So he agreed. And then I went to him and I said, hey, I need a favor. I need a big display in this store because I have somebody that I think is going to try to come in when I'm not here. And, he didn't believe me at first, but I was telling him, oh man, they're going to come in. Let's do it. And so we did this really awesome thematic display and we dressed up the store. We did stuff all over the store. It looked awesome. I think we put like a boat or a motorcycle or something like that on the display. So then my guy comes in and he's looking and he pats the guy on the back and he just tells him how great the store is. And he's like, I've been looking at your numbers. Your numbers are great, but also this looks great. Thank you so much. From that point forward, every time that store manager saw me for the next 3 or 4 years, however long I was out in that area, he only remembered that moment. And every big moment that built up off of that. So every time I wanted to do something, I would do it just as grand. He only remembered that. Everything that happened prior to that, it went away. He never thought about it. He never talked about it. At least with me. So when he saw me, he was like, wow, this is excellence. We're going to always be on the up and up as long as we have this guy taking care of us. So you want people to envision you like that. One of the best compliments that I ever got as a salesperson was from an on-premise account. And I was working for a supplier at the time, and we had a new product that we were putting out, and I was pushing him I said, hey man, we really got to get this new product out. 3 reasons. 1, it's really good. It is a really good product. 2, in other markets we've tested it, it sells really good. And 3, you really love our products, man. You really love supporting our company. You really got to do it. I always like giving 3 reasons for everything. And he was like, I'm going to take it, but all 3 of your reasons, none of those reasons mean anything to me. He's like, I buy your beer because you sell it, because I trust you, because you take care of me, because you are, to me, you are that company. When I see you, I see that supplier, and I know that it's going to be quality, not because they make quality product, y'all make great product, but because you are a quality salesperson. So I buy the beer because of you. That was the greatest compliment ever, and that's the way you want to be thought of with your customers. Number 7, recruit allies, recreate adversaries. So Adolphus Bush used to have this saying, it's his credo, and that is, making friends is our business. When I started in the beer business, we used to say that at this distributor I worked for that was a AB distributor. And I always loved that saying because it was the beer business. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be about making friends. It's supposed to be about connecting. All the beverage industries is really about the community, right? And nothing is more impactful as a salesperson than having a strong network. Why? Because your network is your greatest advocate. If you have a good name and your word is golden, your customers will in turn sell you to other customers. Your colleagues, even your competitors, will understand that you are somebody that they want in your network. You're somebody they want to communicate with. You never know who you open the door for today might be opening the door for you tomorrow. The thing about recreating allies is I'm one of those type of people that I have to invent these adversaries. I have to invent these enemies. And it pushes me to be competitive. Remember, sales is competitive. It's about being competitive. Ultimately, it's about winning. When we were at that distributor, we were in AB house. Our biggest competitor was a Miller house, naturally. And it was almost an indoctrination. There were great guys over there at the Miller Coors distributor, but they were like our enemy. Everything. We competed over displays, over sales, over putting up borders, hanging neon lights. It was as if they kept me on my toes. For instance, I had an account that on my way home, I would pass it. And every, couple days, I would pass it and I would say, let me just stop by there before I go home. Because I was worried that the Miller guy was going to move some of my stuff around on the shelf. But that competitiveness, it drives you and it grows you and it makes you stronger. This is the same thing with colleagues. We had incentives and everybody would chase the incentives that they really wanted. So, I like trips. I like trips and I like stuff like barbecue pits and grills. So if I saw that, I was all over that. But there was an incentive for a trip to a NASCAR deal. And I'm not into NASCAR, so I was like, it's not my thing. But my supervisor, great supervisor, he was like, why don't you just win it so that nobody else can? And then they'll have to come to you and say, hey, will you sell it to me? or can I trade it for one of something else? Because don't you just want to win? Don't you just want to win it so people will be like, you won the NASCAR incentive. You're that good. And I did. And it was a great feeling. I'm not saying that this is the healthiest emotion, but it was a great feeling to win it and my colleagues come and try to buy it from me. And I ended up going too and I enjoyed it. So don't make adversaries, as in don't go pick fights with people, but in your mind, recreate adversaries to push you and motivate you. To me, the best salespeople do that. The best competitors do that. I can't think of the particular player, but there's multiple players in sports that they have this huge chip on their shoulder, and then the announcers are like, no, nobody is competing against him. No, nobody is saying these things, but it's mentally they have to do that to themselves. I think that makes for a competitive and effective salesperson. Number 6, be a mental MacGyver. So for all you young people out there, back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this really awesome show called MacGyver. Hey, Charlie. Yeah. MacGyver, your remake. What? Since when? 2016. No. Daniel. Wow. Where have you been? Anyways, this guy MacGyver in the late 80s and early 90s when it was a real show. This guy was like a secret agent and he was like brilliant. He could think his way out of any issue and he just was never down for the count. They would have like the villain would like trap him in a basement, chain him up and everything. The villain would be like, okay, I've got MacGyver. There's no way he's going to get out of this. And in that basement, there'd be like bubble gum, a paper clip, a screwdriver, some chopsticks, and like a slice of apple pie. And he would take that and he would create like a bomb. And he would blow up, he would like blow off the chain and blow off the door of the basement and then he would escape. MacGyver was never down for the count. And that's how you have to be as a salesperson. Never count yourself out. You have to have that mentality that there's always a chance. There's always a chance that you're going to come out on top. So I put on here the beer wars. There was this time where that Miller Coors distributor and Miller as a company released this product called Miller Chill. I think it was around 2008 or so, maybe 2007. I can't remember. So they had put it out there. It's a lime infused kind of chelada style beer. And they kind of got the heads up on AB, who would come months later going into that next year, Bud Light Lime. And a lot of the salespeople were concerned because customers were not buying Bud Light Lime because we were second to the dance. We were they're like, well, we already got this thing. Why do we need this new thing? But the good salespeople, including myself, kept pressing, kept trying, kept pushing it because there was going to be that breakthrough. And I don't think Miller Chill is even sold anymore. Bud Light Lime is still on the market. So never count yourself out. Your goal is always one case away. Always remind yourself that. I have to do this all the time to myself. When you have these goals and they seem monumental, the best salespeople say to themselves, well, if I do this and if I could do this and I get this person to buy this and I get this person to do that, I can get there. And that's how you want to be mentally. You want to be a mental MacGyver. You want to be, again, flexible, resourceful. That's really what you want to be, resourceful. Okay, let's go. Number 5. Now we're starting to get into the things that you are personally doing as a salesperson. And this is one of my favorite quotes from one of my old colleagues, Cameron. This has stuck with me for so long. I'm never going to forget this. I love it. No science facts, sell science fiction. Now, what does that mean? You have a product. Know your product. Know some of the intricate details of your brand. understand the construction of the product and what it takes and what makes it great. But you're not writing a manual. You're not presenting a manual. You're writing a coloring book. You are illustrating and painting a picture for them. So you want to sell science fiction. You want to make it beyond belief. You don't need to know the details. You need to know that it's going to work and how exciting it is and how much money you're going to make or whatever the case may be. So it's a coloring book. What is a coloring book? You're going to give them a book with some nice pictures, brief words, and a bunch of crayons because they're going to help you make it what it is, right? They're going to help you make it into an actual book. So a lot of times we get caught up in the intricate details. We get caught up in the science or the logistics of how it's going to happen and what makes it great. Science fiction. That's what you're selling. You need to know the science facts because the reversal is, we all know this, there are some customers that just want bottom line. There are some customers, in the case of the beer world, they want to know all the intricate details to how the product is made. This does exist, so you want to know those things. But you want to develop and enhance and tailor your pitch to those customers, but you want to tailor it to really painting the picture and selling the story. I'm a big talker, so I love doing this. But when I'm selling something that I'm really passionate about and that I really like, sometimes I do get caught up in the intricate details. And sometimes I have to be reminded. Science fiction. I sold beer with a brewmaster for the supplier I work for. And this guy his knowledge was crazy. And he asked me to give him a pitch, show him how I pitch. And so I was pitching him and I was putting in some of the intricate details, but I was way more science fiction than science facts. And he was laughing because he said, that is a great pitch. You're not getting the hop varietal correct. But the pitch is good and people will look beyond that. So get educated, learn the right thing. But he's like, but don't change your pitch. Don't change your pitch because generally speaking, people don't want to get dialed into the intricate details. They want to know that what you're selling works, that it's going to make them money, and that they haven't made a bad investment. So science fiction, not science facts, know the science facts, but also tailor your pitch and develop your pitch so that when you do come across those customers, you can sell the science facts. Number 4, be comfortable with conflict. Honestly, you damn near got to embrace conflict, not in a negative way, but you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with pushback and to be able to deliver a rebuttal to that pushback. There's a great episode on the podcast. It's called Language Barriers, and it's about how different customers communicate. And I believe there's an insert in there about one of the customers that I had that he was from another country, and he, I always thought he was yelling at me because the way he talks, but that's kind of the way that they communicate wherever he was from. And me and him got into a really big, heated discussion about something that I was trying to sell him that was going to cost a lot of money. And he was just giving me all this pushback. And I was like, why do we have to argue about this? And he's like, you're asking me to spend thousands of dollars. Wouldn't you argue if it was you spending thousands of dollars? I was like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I would be probably arguing harder than you because I don't have thousands of dollars. So you're asking for money. Always ask for the money, but just be prepared for the pushback. That's a part of the game. You got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with conflict and getting to the root solution. Another great quote, debate for discovery. Well, it comes from an even greater quote that is, arguments, the point of an argument is not to be right, it's to get it right. And this is a great quote. I love it. I forget who said it, but that is what the point is when you are discussing with customers, when you are adding new suppliers. And this is for all salespeople. You are trying to come up with a solution, and you have the right solution. So they're going to disagree with it. They're going to disagree with spending money. They're going to disagree with doing a whole bunch of things. But you're helping to bring them to a positive solution, a beneficial solution. And it's not about being right. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about showing them that if they make this decision, they're going to be very, very, very right. So be comfortable with conflict. Be comfortable with engaging with people and getting pushback. And be prepared for debate and winning together. Number 3, strike while the iron is hot. Again and again and again and again. I should have put 4 agains on there, but I didn't want to change the font or reduce the size of the words. The best salesmen strike while the iron is hot. Doesn't matter if they say yes. You don't stop there. You build upon that. I call it open-ended affirmation. My kids were trying to get me to do that say yes day, where you just can't never say no. I'm like, I'm not falling into that trap. But the idea of it is beautiful. You go in there and you say, well, now they've given me a positive response. This is your best time to then expand upon that. I had an on-premise account that really good account, but the guy was really anti doing like events because he didn't like it. He just wanted to sell products. And I talked him into doing a couple of different things. It started off with a neon light. I said, man, we've got this really great product and we've got these brand new neon lights. I want to get it on draft and I want to get the neon light to support it. He's getting a neon light. He's giving me a keg. We did it. But then I also knew about a group that was coming in there. And I said, hey, we should put this particular brand on special because they're doing a bottle share here. And they're going to have some of our specialty brands in the bottle share. Let's put this on special. So while they're doing the bottle share, we'll also have this available special on draft. But then, and he just kept saying yes. So I said, then, you know what? Instead of doing that, you know what we should do? We should do a tap takeover. And he's like, ugh, I hate tap takeovers because it's not really a tap takeover. It's 3 or 4 taps and it's just a waste of time. You're already going to have this neon up. You're already going to be promoting our brewery. Why don't you give me all the taps? And I think he had like 13, 14, 15 taps. And he's like, so you could put something on different on every single one of those taps. I was like, yes. And I'll give you some unique stuff. I'll give you some really cool stuff, but you have to give me every single tap. And he said, yes. If I would have led with that, he probably would have said no. But you go in, when you get a win, you build upon that win. I've even told people before, well, hey, since you're in the giving mood, what about this? What about that? You know, takes a little bit off of it and it's funny, but people are apt to say yes once they've already said yes. The last thing on this is follow up. You have to follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. So just because you got a yes or even a maybe, it's not the end of the game. You have to keep following up, consistently following up. Because a lot of times it's not the right time at that moment. But if you're consistent and you're showing the interest and engagement into their business, the right time will come shortly. Number 2, come on, y'all. Ask questions. You have to ask questions. Asking questions is one of the biggest keys. It's the second, obviously, and not number 1, but it is one of the biggest keys to selling. You have to ask questions. You have to ask tons of questions. Why? Because it shows that you're engaged. Like I said earlier, you're engaged with their business. People, they don't necessarily want a salesperson. They want a problem solver. They want you to be an advisor and a partner in their business. So you have to ask questions. You have to get an understanding of what their needs and their wants and what makes their business successful. The other thing about asking questions is when you ask questions, you control the conversation. Again, I go back to language barriers. I had a customer that they would always ask me tons of questions. And what did that mean? That meant they were controlling the conversation. I can't sell them if I'm answering every minute detail to everything that's going on with the brand. So if you're the one asking the questions, then you are navigating the ship. You're steering the ship. You are controlling the pace of the conversation, and you are leading them down the direct path to solving the problem, creating a solution. So ask tons of questions, get to know their brand, get an understanding of their company or even in their process and how they get things done, and then go from there. Really quick before we get into that number one tactic for great sales reps, what kind of salesperson would I be if I didn't mention that Adventures in Beer Selling has its own craft beer store, its own digital ice house? We ship to 44 states, same day delivery in New York. We offer a great selection from the uniques to the new to market to fan favorites to my own personal favorite. Go to abs.taprm.com, abs.taprm.com. Order some craft beer. Enjoy a craft beer while you're listening to the show. And let's get into that number one. Cheers. So number two was ask questions, which leads us to number one, which is after you ask those questions, you got to listen. You have to listen. Listening is the key. It's the most important thing to do as a salesperson. I have myself been reminded of this when I want to talk. As much as you guys see how much I love to talk, I have to remember to listen. So here's a good metaphor for that. One of my favorite movies, and honestly, it's the greatest movie ever made, and it's The Godfather. And there's a scene in The Godfather. So the five families are at war, right? And they, Sollozzo, the Turk, he did an assassination attempt on Vito Corleone. Vito looks like he's going to survive. They send Michael to negotiate because they want to negotiate a peace. Now, the whole time, Michael's setting up on Sollozzo because they've got a gun planted at the restaurant that they're at. So he tells them on the car ride to the meeting, him and Captain McCluskey are on their way to the meeting. Michael says, I don't want my father bothered anymore. And Sollozzo says, I swear on my kids. I swear on my kids. Never again, right? Then they get to the restaurant and they're having this conversation where Sollozzo's really revealing what his motivations are. He says, hey, I have nothing but respect for Vito Corleone. What happened was just business. They're saying this in Italian. And it was just business. It wasn't personal. And the ways of your father, I mean, they're the old ways. They're ancient. They're the ancient ways. We don't need to do that anymore. This is the new ways, this heroin. And I have the Tatalias backing me. So he's revealing to you that his motivation is to get back to business. And he needs the war to stop because they can't defeat Santino. You guys need to watch this movie. If you haven't watched this movie, stop and go back and watch this movie. It's a great movie. But here's some things you guys probably missed. So he knows they're not doing well in this war. So he needs it to stop so he can get back to business. But here's the key thing. Michael, again, rephrases his question from in the car and asks him again. He says, what I want, what I need is a guarantee. No more attempts on my father's life. And this is where Sollozzo's fate was actually sealed. He says, what guarantees can I give? I'm the hunted one. You think too much of me. I'm not that clever. Right then and there, Sollozzo just gave the goose. Vito Corleone has to go, and he's going to go. Once they get this truce, they get back to business. The key is getting rid of Vito, and Michael knows it. So then he goes to the restroom. Hey, can I use the restroom? He gets the gun from behind the old-fashioned toilet, and in the words of Peter Clemenza, he came out blasting. Didn't really come out blasting. He sat down, he listened to some more stuff, and then he started blasting. But anyways, the important thing is he listened. He listened to figure out the intentions of Sollozzo. If you listen to the customer, they will reveal to you how to sell them. And I think that is brilliant because you get to figure out their intentions. You get to figure out what it is that makes their antennas go up, that makes their ears pop up. What are the things that are their real needs? What are their true solutions that they think solves the problem? And this helps you reach the finish line with them. Reach the finish line together by listening to them and getting their needs and their wants and the things that make them tick. So important. It's the most important aspect of salespeople. And I mean, as salespeople, we're storytellers by nature. We're big talkers. We're people that take over the conversation. But like my grandmother would say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You got to listen twice as much as you talk and listen to what they're doing. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to this. Like, subscribe, enjoy the podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thank you guys. Have a great one. Cheers.